What's up, family? Rasati here in Singapore, and as always, thank you so much for joining me on the Night Owl podcast. Now, you already know if you've been following me for a while that when I get on here, it's going to be some heavy stuff. I'm not trying to depress anybody. I'm not trying to, break anybody down, but I do want you guys to have enough information to be able to make educated decisions. So, what do? I figure I educate you with my opinion, which is, it's not always great, but it is another perspective for you to consider. So, today, I actually want to take on some of these toxic behaviors that people keep complaining about because of course, it's easy to label someone as manipulative or gaslighting or narcissistic. All those things, yes, they are terms. They are medically relevant terms that have to do with mental health. But what we don't do is look at what makes that person choose that kind of behavior because let's face it, it is a choice. So let's start with being manipulative. I see so many times on TV and reality shows that people try their very best to be important. They try their very best to get control of a situation. They try their very best to live their lives to the best of their abilities. Now, sometimes they are destructive behaviors, sometimes they are constructive behaviors, but unfortunately, different people bring out different sides of you. Now, there are people in my own life right now at the age of 40, right, that if they continue on their behavior and are overt or obvious about it, continually and tend to throw things in my face continually, as passive as I am, as much of a sanguine as I am, I try really hard not to lose my temper, but even I have a threshold. And when I lose my temper, all of my old bad habits come out. So things like throwing things back in your face, things like bringing up your past to put you back in your place, to make you realize that you're no better than I am, to make you feel the way you're making me feel so you understand that you're hurting me. So a lot of those bad behaviors, a lot of those destructive behaviors come out of me even when I'm put in a situation where I've tried my level best to help you understand any other way possible. And suddenly I realize that you don't need my patience and my love and compassion. You actually need my ego in order for you to understand what you're doing wrong. So let's tackle some of these manipulative behaviors or these toxic behaviors that we have labels for, because I feel like there's a few episodes in these kinds of conversations. So we're going to start with manipulative behavior. A lot of times people are very, very careful about the information that they give you. They give you certain aspects of the truth. They give you half the truth. They give you one side of the story. They give you the information you need to know in order for you to make the decision they want you to make. It's actually a tactic that we as parents use sometimes as well. Sometimes I will give my daughter 3 options that she can choose from so she feels like she does have a semblance of independence in choosing what she's going to wear. But most of them are going to be choices that are appropriate for whatever event we're trying to go to, right? So that she doesn't end up looking crazy or be uncomfortable and end up taking clothes off or destroying the clothes that she has. So activity appropriate, right? Event appropriate, and I will give her 3 choices. One choice that is close to what she wants but is still appropriate for me. Another choice that is maybe a little bit more comfortable but not as fancy, and then another choice that is just plain ugly. So she knows she's not going to pick the first one, the ugly one, because it's not in line with what she wants at all. But now she has a choice between 2 outfits that are appropriate by my standards, but one is closer to her kind of style or whatever she's trying to go for, and one is not so close. So I've kind of manipulated the situation for her to pick the one that's close to her idea, but it is within, my approved style guidelines or whatever we want to call it, like dress code. But the point being that I'm basically telling her to choose this. But if I were to flat out say, hey, wear this, she may fight me and say, no, I want to choose something. But if I give her a choice of 3 things, 2 of which aren't really anything that she really wants to wear, she's going to choose the one that's the closest fit to her because it's what she wants, right? It's the closest to what she wants, but I've manipulated the situation. Now, I'm not saying that that's a good thing, bad thing, or an ugly thing. I'm saying sometimes, in some situations, right, you feel the need to manipulate the information that's given to the person in front of you in order for them to help themselves best. As young children, and I'm talking about when my daughter was like 5, 6, 7 years old, where she wanted to wear a raincoat and an eye patch and a fluffy, tutu as well, all at the same time to go out somewhere, I can't allow that, right? And it's not to say that she wouldn't be, oh, that's so cute when she got to wherever she was going, but you can't really do that at a wedding. You hear what I'm saying? So these are the things that, yes, we learn that it is sometimes appropriate to manipulate information in order to get someone to make the decision you want them to make. However, that can also become a habit. That can also become a coping mechanism, because if you live in a chaotic environment where people tend to dismiss your needs and your wants and your love languages or whatever, or try to gloss over the fact that you also need to be taken care of, you learn somewhere along the way that if you only tell them certain aspects of what you know in order for them to help you make a decision. Like, let's say, somebody is a teenager and they really want money to go out and party, but they can't really say that. They got to tell their parents that, hey, you know what, I lost a book, or I lost something that cost about the same amount of money that the concert they're trying to sneak off to costs as well. And they're trying to, get their way, essentially. So they give their parents an abbreviated version of the truth, or an adjusted version of the truth, so they can get what they want. But this is teaching them to fulfill a need. They need to feel important. They need to feel heard. They need to have some semblance of variety, because they're actually, it's touch and go. You don't know if the person is going to, adhere to what you're asking for or not. But manipulating your way into a situation to get what you want, in that regard, isn't technically toxic, but it is a bad behavior. It is a destructive behavior. Now, when you get into a relationship and you're hoping that, both of you are on the same page, you love each other, you're both working towards a long-term kind of situation, and you have someone who's grown up in an environment where they've always had to be manipulative in order to get what they want, they may decide that you're the one for them. You may decide that this is a casual thing. You're trying to kind of, feel your way through this. They decide to tell you truths or half-truths or flat-out lies about themselves so that you feel pity to stay with them. They may tell you that they're bipolar. They may tell you that they've been through so many heartaches in the past, and that you now feel, obligated to take care of them, like you want to become their protector because they've been so hurt. They may tell you that they've attempted suicide before, so, any kind of big change in their life may affect them adversely, and so now you have to be careful of how you say things, how you do things. They may tell you that they have really bad anxiety, so loud noises or small changes in your behavior that they can sense will send them into a rage, or they may send them into a depression. They may take small choices that you make for yourself as choices that you have decided to do in order to hurt them instead. So all these little things are now manipulative truths that they're feeding you in order to gain a specific behavior in return. They want you to stand by their side. They're afraid that you might leave, so they're going to manipulate the facts and hope that, you feel pity enough to stand by their side, or you feel love all of a sudden, or compassion all of a sudden, because they are at a disadvantage. And why would you abuse them by using their disadvantages against them? So things like that become very toxic and very, very destructive, because they're now not allowing you to make an educated choice for yourself. They're forcing you into a path that they want for themselves instead. And so in this regard, it's very hard to tell who's telling the truth and who's not, who's actually manipulating you and who's not. But you can tell in a way by listening to your feelings, because if you pay attention to the fact that you feel trapped, right? You feel like you can't make any decisions for yourself, because if you make a decision, they will get upset with you. They will treat you badly. They will fly off the handle and make things difficult for you in the long run. You find that you are in a toxic pattern. It may not be that the person's a bad person at all. It just may mean that their coping mechanisms aren't healthy. And so when they do these things to you, it's what they've always done. This is how they always get what they want. But you, being a different person in their life, can feel the fact that you are being forced into a pattern of behavior. You're being manipulated by the information that they feed you into behaving a specific way that is abnormal to you and is, you find, restricting. It's not allowing you to choose for yourself the way you want to love this person, or the way you want to behave in the world, or how you want to show up in the relationship itself. So in those regards, listening to your feelings can be very, very helpful. There's a lot of data in your feelings. The minute this person shows up on your phone, how do you feel about it? The minute this person, you come home to this, maybe you live with this person, you come home to this person, and the minute you see that they flip out over something small, maybe you don't know how to do something, you've told them you don't know how to do it, but they expect you to be able to do it anyway. So when you make a mistake, they have no room for error, and they judge you, or they make you feel badly, or they remind you of a time where somebody else did something similar, and they feel like you're doing this on purpose to hurt them or whatever. When you go through those situations, your immediate response, what your gut is telling you how you feel, if it's fight, flight, or frozen or whatever, pay attention. Those things have a lot to tell you. So when you face those situations and you listen to the feeling that's going through your mind in that moment, you have a chance to decide for yourself if this pattern of behavior, as in they behave and you react, you behave and they react, this pattern of behavior is toxic to you or not. Do you feel bad more often than you feel good? Do you feel afraid when you're around this person to make mistakes? Do you feel like it's a safe place where you can actually express your emotions or any of those things? Because this is a way to tell if the pattern of behavior is toxic. Not necessarily the person, but the pattern of behavior is toxic. Once you decide those things, step obviously is to figure out how to stay in the relationship and make it better, or to leave the relationship altogether and find a better path for yourself. Now that in itself can be very, very difficult, because let me tell you, I left a marriage that was toxic to me, and sitting back now 7 years later where I can see him as a human being again, he's not a bad person, but the way he behaved with me is the way he's always behaved with all of his girlfriends and ex-wives and everything, and it did not work for me. It was very, very restrictive. It was very traumatic for me, and it made me feel like I was guilted into being with him way longer than I should have been, because I was afraid of the consequences of not being around him. I was afraid of what he might do to my reputation, to my friends, family, to the people around me if I did leave him. And so it took me a lot of courage and a lot of tries to be finally free of this person. So it's difficult, but recognizing that you're in a bad situation is the first step. Sometimes it's the fact that they feel pity for themselves and they feel like they don't want to take responsibility for their own actions, but they'll make you feel bad for thinking for yourself. They'll make you feel bad for seeing through, what they've carefully created as their universe, what they see as reality for themselves. And it becomes very, very difficult to have conversations with these people. But in the end, you got to do what's best for you. Now, there is another aspect to this. What if you are the toxic person? How do you recognize that you're the one who is creating a toxic pattern of behavior that is pushing people away, that is making you feel uncomfortable, that is making them feel uncomfortable, where you have to constantly try to pull them back in? That is another conversation. So for now, let's focus on the fact that you're in a toxic pattern of behavior. You feel like, they're manipulative. They don't allow you to make decisions for yourself. They kind of force you in one way or another. Realize that that is a behavior that they have learned is okay for them. That is a behavior that they've learned to use to cope with their life. That is a behavior that they have learned somewhere along the line. In order for them to get what they want, this is what they have to do. So, like I said, there are no bad people, that there are bad habits, there are bad behaviors that they've learned along the way. And once it's reinforced, as in they use the behavior and they get what they want, that is a reinforcement, right? You get your reward. Once the pattern of behavior is reinforced a couple of times, it becomes a fallback. It becomes, okay, how do I get what I want? This is what I need to do to get what I want, right? Instead of allowing the other person to choose for themselves, they don't want to risk the fact that they might not get what they want. They want to minimize all risks possible, and so they manipulate the information given to you, or they manipulate the way you're going to make your decisions, and so it becomes a bad behavior, a pattern of toxic behavior. So with that being said, I hope there's plenty for you to think about here. I'm going to start the next episode in just a second so we can talk about what happens if you're the one who's manipulating things and you don't realize you're manipulating things. How do you recognize that for yourself? So I'll catch you again soon, and y'all take care in the meantime, okay? Bye.